Mercedes' big announcement about W15. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is, Mercedes are taking a huge risk for their 2024 F1 car by changing every component in the Mercedes W15. Mercedes concedes that it could get its 2024 Formula One car wrong amid its decision to change virtually every component in an attempt to return to winning ways next season. Despite beating Ferrari to second place in the Constructors' standings, the German marque endured its first winless season since 2011 and wound up 454 points behind Red Bull, who triumphed in all but one race. Following a breakthrough victory at the end of last year, Mercedes had elected to retain faith in its zero-pod solution that it had run since the start of the latest regulation cycle. But while the team reversed that with upgrades in Monaco, Mercedes remained hindered by the architecture of the launch spec W14 under the cost cap restrictions. Mercedes has revealed it will pursue a new philosophy next season, but team boss Toto Wolff remains cautious about the side's chances of reviving its title credentials. "I have never in my life felt optimistic about anything," Wolff expressed in Abu Dhabi, which makes it sound miserable, but it has protected me about managing my expectations and pushing harder because I think it is never good enough. Expanding on the modifications being made to its W15 Challenger, Wolff explained, "So we are changing the concept. We are completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis, the weight distribution, the airflow. I mean, literally, there is almost every component that has been changed because only by doing that do we have a chance." However, Wolff admits the extent of the alterations being made behind the scenes at Brackley could backfire and result in Mercedes struggling for a third straight year. "We could get it wrong also, so between not gaining what we expect to catching up, making a big step and competing at the front, everything is possible," he continued. "If you ask me today, there is always skepticism, but that is the mentality in the team that pushes us forward to never give up." Wolff noted that improving one place to second in the standings this season left him with a bittersweet feeling, as he considered the position to represent that it had lost P1. After Lewis Hamilton said he expects Red Bull to remain the benchmark in 2024, Wolff is aware of the unenviable task Mercedes has in catching the reigning champions. "There is a Mount Everest to climb to catch up with Red Bull," the Austrian issued. "I have no doubt that McLaren is going to be right in the mix next year. Maybe Aston Martin, maybe others, insofar as we must leave no stone unturned, which we do in Brixworth and in Brackley. As tough as it is to be reminded that it is just P2, it's also a great opportunity to come back and strive for the stars." James Allison has denied that Mercedes' side pods were the reason for their underperformance this year. The zero-pod idea formed at the start of the ground effect era at the start of 2022, but Mercedes have ceded domination of Formula One to Red Bull ever since. A more conventional design has been promised for the 2024 W15 car after 2 seasons following the flawed idea to have a different sidepod design to every other F1 team. Mercedes technical director Allison was asked by Sky if they regret sticking to their guns over the concept. He responded, "Well, I don't quite see the world the same way you guys do, looking at a sidepod and deciding that's a concept. We definitely took a path with our car. And I would say that's from the tip of the nose to the very back of the tail, which was not a competitive one. The most visually noticeable aspect were our side pods, of course, but by no means the definitive factor. It was not right from front to back, and that's the thing we've had to learn and have to deal with. That's taken us longer than we would have liked, but the side pods are maybe emblematic of a team that took too long to figure out which way was up, but by no means the distinguishing feature that sealed our fate." Mercedes' woes were quickly identified when they were edged out at the opening round by Aston Martin, their customer team. McLaren would later take over as fighting for the podium in the latter half of the season. Mercedes failed to win a Grand Prix for the first time since 2011, having won just once last year. Allison was brought back as their technical director to replace the outgoing Mike Elliott as Mercedes aimed to get back to winning ways in 2024. Sky's David Croft reported optimism from the Mercedes camp at the third-from-last race of the year. It's a confidence that the direction is right, that the technical department is fully aligned and working in tandem, chassis and aero, with each other. I think the fact that James Allison has come back and taken a more keen interest after moving away a little bit at the start of the season. The second story is George Russell is pushing harder than ever to topple Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes in 2024. George Russell says he's not satisfied being on level terms with seven-time world champion F1 teammate Lewis Hamilton. On raw pace terms, Russell and Hamilton were one of the most evenly matched teammate pairings on the grid, particularly in qualifying. However, the disparity came on race day, with Russell either struggling relative to Hamilton or making crucial race-ending mistakes. Canada, Singapore. In the end, Hamilton finished third in the Drivers' Championship, while Russell had to settle for a disappointing 8th place. Reflecting on the campaign, Russell admitted it was the toughest season he's had psychologically. No doubt, it's been probably the toughest season I've ever had psychologically, he told Motorsport magazine. Bouncing back from missed opportunities, missed results, mistakes. I think this is when you push yourself. And probably when I sit through my championship years, I probably wasn't being pushed as much as I'm pushing myself now. Russell was able to finish ahead of Hamilton in his first year with Mercedes in 2022, but that's not enough for the younger British driver. I'm purposely trying to push myself further and beyond, and I'm not satisfied with just being on par with my teammate in qualifying or whatever it may be, he added. Or 2022, when we were very even across the whole season. I want to be ahead, and that's what I'm pushing myself for. George Russell made it clear he will not be happy until he has usurped Lewis Hamilton as top dog at Mercedes. Russell did beat his fellow Brit in their first season together as teammates, and he secured Mercedes' only win of that 2022 campaign by beating the seven-time world champion to the checkered flag in Brazil. But Hamilton was by far the most prolific of the Mercedes racers this year. Despite being saddled with a temperamental W14 car which didn't win a race all year, the 38-year-old was beaten only by his two Red Bull rivals in the Drivers' Championship. In contrast, Russell suffered a sophomore slump and managed only 8th place, 64 points behind his partner. To his credit, though, he is the first to admit that he was not at his best, and he plans to set the record straight next term. Not only does he want to pull his own weight within the team, but the 25-year-old has made it clear he will not be able to rest until he has cemented his place as Mercedes' main man. No doubt it's been probably the toughest season I've ever had psychologically, Russell told reporters. Bouncing back from missed opportunities, missed results, mistakes, I think this is when you push yourself. I could comfortably lift my foot off the gas pedal and drive 1% below the limit. And I could sit here right now and tell you that I wouldn't make a single mistake. And probably when I sit through my championship years, I probably wasn't being pushed as much as I'm pushing myself now. I'm purposely trying to push myself further and beyond, and I'm not satisfied with just being on par with my teammate in qualifying or whatever it may be. Or last year when we were very even across the whole season. I want to be ahead. And that's what I'm pushing myself for. And perhaps that's been a small reason for contributing to a couple more mistakes. But I think you look back on seasons like this and you grow. I'm thankful it's not a season where we're fighting for a championship victory, and I'm confident next season will be very different, because I know the sort of driver who I am. I know one year like this is not going to take away from all of my other consistent seasons, championship-winning seasons. I know it won't take a lot to find myself in that good rhythm once again. The third story is Lewis Hamilton expresses faith in Mercedes to build stronger 2024 F1 car to fight Red Bull harder. Lewis Hamilton has reiterated his full faith in Mercedes' ability to build a more competitive car for 2024 when they will bid to challenge Red Bull's Formula One dominance next season. Mercedes and a number of their key F1 rivals have entered big off-seasons as they look to respond to the most dominant season in the sport's history, produced by Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Hamilton visited Mercedes factories after the season-ending Abu Dhabi GP, and speaking in Baku at the FIA's end-of-season prize-giving gala a day, the seven-time champion said, "It's always the exciting time of the year because I have seen the car in the wind tunnel. I always go by the wind tunnel when I go to the factory and to see it evolving in whichever direction it ends up going. As soon as I was leaving, again, I popped in just to see where we were, and when I come back, it'll be again a different animal." But I have full faith in everyone that's working on it and hopeful that we'll be in a much more competitive position next year. Hamilton, who also strongly spoke out against the FIA's short-lived investigation into Toto Wolff, was at the Baku ceremony after finishing third in this year's championship behind the Red Bull drivers. After accepting the third-place trophy on stage, he told the audience from around global motorsport, "I have to say a big congratulations to Red Bull and to Max and Checo. They've done an incredible job this year." Max was faultless. "The team really raised the bar, and we have a lot of work to close that gap. But I truly do believe that we can close that gap. And a big thank you to my team, because they never gave up this year. We started off with the sister basically of the previous year's car, which was not good and not fun to drive for most of the year. But no one gave up.